The house on Elmwood Lane was a dream come true for the Carter family. Nestled at the edge of a dense forest, it was a sprawling Victorian mansion with ivy crawling up its weathered stone walls. The real estate agent had called it a fixer-upper, but to Sarah and Mark Carter it was perfect. Their two children, Emily and Jake, were thrilled by the idea of exploring the creaky old house, with its endless hallways and mysterious nooks. The price was too good to pass up, and the family moved in just 2 weeks after signing the papers. The first few days were a whirlwind of unpacking and settling in. The house was larger than they had imagined, with rooms that seemed to stretch on forever. The children claimed they heard whispers in the walls, but Sarah dismissed it as the wind. Mark, ever the skeptic, laughed it off as their overactive imaginations. But as the days turned into nights, the house began to reveal its secrets. It was Emily who found the door. She had been playing hide and seek with Jake when she stumbled upon a narrow hallway on the 3rd floor. The wallpaper was peeling, and the air smelled damp. But what caught her attention was the small, almost invisible door at the end of the hall. It was no taller than 4 feet, with a rusted handle and no visible keyhole. "Mom, Dad, come look," she called, her voice echoing through the empty halls. Sarah and Mark arrived moments later, followed by Jake, who was clutching a flashlight. Mark knelt down to examine the door, running his fingers along its edges. It was made of heavy oak, and the wood was warped with age. "Looks like it's been sealed shut," Mark said, frowning. "Probably just a storage closet." "But why would they seal it?" Sarah asked, her voice tinged with unease. Mark shrugged. "Who knows? Maybe it's unstable. We should probably leave it alone." But the children protested. Their curiosity piqued. After a few minutes of arguing, Mark relented. He fetched a crowbar from the garage and with a few forceful tugs pried the door open. A cloud of dust billowed out, making them cough and step back. The air that escaped was cold and stale, carrying with it a faint, metallic smell. Mark shone the flashlight inside, revealing a small, windowless room. The walls were covered in faded, peeling wallpaper, and the floor was littered with debris. In the center of the room was an old wooden desk, its surface covered in a thick layer of dust. On top of the desk lay a leather-bound diary, its pages yellowed with age. "Creepy," Jake whispered, his eyes wide. Sarah stepped inside, her heart pounding. She picked up the diary and brushed off the dust. The cover was embossed with the initials EH. "Who's EH?" Emily asked, peering over her mother's shoulder. "I don't know," Sarah said, flipping through the pages, "but it looks like a diary. Maybe it belonged to the previous owner." Mark frowned. The real estate agent said the house had been vacant for years. No one mentioned anyone named EH. Sarah hesitated, then opened the diary to the first page. The handwriting was neat but hurried. The ink faded to a pale brown. She began to read aloud. Entry 1. September 12, 1987. I've finally moved into the house on Elmwood Lane. It's everything I've ever wanted. Quiet, secluded, perfect for my work. But there's something about this place that unsettles me. I keep hearing noises in the walls, like whispers. I tell myself it's just the wind, but I can't shake the feeling that I'm not alone. Sarah paused, her voice trembling. The room seemed to grow colder, the shadows deepening around them. "Keep reading," Jake urged, his eyes glued to the diary. Sarah turned the page. Entry 5, September 20th, 1987. The whispers are getting louder. I can't sleep. Every night, I hear them calling my name. I've tried to ignore it. But last night, I saw something. A shadow moving in the corner of my room. It was there for only a moment, but I know what I saw. I'm not crazy. This house is alive. Mark scoffed. Sounds like this person was a few sandwiches short of a picnic. Sarah shot him a look. Mark, this is serious. What if something really happened here? He shrugged. It's an old house. Old houses make noises. End of story. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled over her. She continued reading. Entry 12, October 3rd, 1987. I've started to lock my door at night. The shadows are everywhere now. They follow me, watching me. I've tried to leave, but every time I get to the edge of the property, something pulls me back. It's like the house won't let me go. I've begun to hear voices too. They're faint, but I can make out what they're saying. They want me to join them. Emily tugged on Sarah's sleeve. Mom, I'm scared. Sarah closed the diary, her hands trembling. Maybe we should stop for now. But Jake grabbed the diary from her hands. No, I want to know what happens. Before Sarah could stop him, he flipped to the next entry and began to read. Entry 20, October 15, 1987. I've started to see them. The people in the walls, they're pale, their eyes hollow, their mouths twisted into grotesque smiles. They beckon to me, urging me to come closer. I can't resist anymore. I've started to carve symbols into the walls, hoping to keep them at bay. But it's no use. They're getting stronger. I can feel them inside me, twisting my thoughts, driving me mad. Jake's voice faltered, and he dropped the diary as if it had burned him. The room was silent, the air thick with tension. Even Mark looked uneasy now. Okay, that's enough, Sarah said firmly, picking up the diary. We're not reading any more of this. But as she turned to leave the room, the door slammed shut with a deafening crash. The flashlight flickered and went out, plunging them into darkness. Sarah fumbled for the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. Mark, help me. Mark joined her, pulling at the handle with all his strength, but it was no use. The door was sealed shut. And then they heard it. A low, guttural whisper coming from the walls. It was faint at first, but it grew louder, more insistent. The words were unintelligible, but the tone was unmistakable. Malicious. Hungry. Get away from the walls, Sarah screamed, pulling the children to the center of the room. The whispers grew louder, filling the room with a chorus of voices. The air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to come alive, twisting and writhing like living things. Sarah clutched the diary to her chest, her mind racing, and then, in the darkness, she saw them. Pale, gaunt faces emerged from the walls, their hollow eyes fixed on the family, their mouths twisted into grotesque smiles as they reached out, their bony fingers clawing at the air. Sarah screamed and the room erupted into chaos. When the door finally burst open, the family stumbled out, gasping for breath. The whispers stopped, and the shadows receded, but the memory of what they had seen would haunt them forever. They moved out of the house the next day, leaving behind the diary in the forgotten room. But sometimes, late at night, Sarah would wake up to the sound of whispers, and she would wonder if they had ever truly escaped. The house on Elmwood Lane still stands, its secrets hidden behind a sealed door, and if you listen closely, you might hear the whispers calling out to you, urging you to come closer. But beware, once you enter the forgotten room, you may never leave.
Sweet dreams.